Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Praje Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Praje Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 13, Text 32 and 33. So I'll just read text 32 and then we can recite 33 together. Tata sadaya badram te atmanam suprajam nirpa istaste putra kamasya putram dasyati yagyabhak. O King, we wish all good fortune for you. You have no son, but if you pray at once to the Supreme Lord and ask for a son, and if you execute the sacrifice for that purpose, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will fulfill your desire. Text 33. We can recite this one together. Tata svabhaga deyani grahisyanti divokasha yadyagya purusha shakshad apatyaya harirvrita tata svabhagadeyani grahisyanti divokasa yadyagya purusha shakshad apatyaya harirvrita tata svabhagadeyani grahisyanti divokasha yadyagya purusha shakshad apatyaya harirvrita tata svabhagadeyani grahisyanti divokasa yadyagya purusha shakshad apatyaya harirvrita Tata svabhagadeyani grihasyanti divokasha yad yagya purusha shakshad apatyaya harirvrita tata svabhagadeyani grahisyanti divokasa yad yagya purusha saksad apatyaya harirvrita tata svabhagadeyani grahisyanti divokasa yad yagya purusha saksad apatyaya harirvrita tata. Thereupon swabhagadeyani, their shares in the sacrifice, grahisyanti, will accept, diva okasa, all the demigods, yat, because, yagya purusha, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, shakshat, directly, apatyaya, for the purpose of a son, Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vrita is invited. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When Hari, the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices, is invited to fulfill your desire for a son, all the demigods will come with him and take their shares in the sacrifice. Purport. Whenever a sacrifice is performed, it is meant for satisfying Lord Vishnu, the enjoyer of the fruits of all sacrifices. And when Lord Vishnu agrees to come to a sacrificial arena, all the demigods naturally follow their master, and their shares are offered in such sacrifices. The conclusion is that the sacrifices performed are meant for Lord Vishnu, not for the demigods. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So thank you for allowing me to speak again in the Bhagavatam class. So in context, we've just been reading about Maharaj Anga and how he has many priests performing a sacrifice. But the demigods were not accepting the offerings in the sacrifice. The priests didn't understand why this was so, because they had been executing everything according to the scripture. They are reciting all the mantras correctly and making all the offerings. So it was astonishing that the demigods were not there to accept. So Maharaj Anga eventually asked, what has happened? Why are they not accepting it? What sin have I committed? So the priest said that he didn't perform any sins in this current life. He was faultless. But in his previous life, he had sins. And he had sinned, and that's why he wasn't able to have a son in this life. So they advised him to pray to the Supreme Lord for a son. And when the Supreme Lord comes to the sacrifice and accepts the offering, then the demigods will naturally follow and accept their shares. So at the end of the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, the conclusion is that the sacrifices performed are meant for Lord Vishnu, not for the demigods. So we read in Bhagavad Gita, the same point is mentioned many times in Bhagavad Gita actually. In chapter 7, verse 23, it says, "Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet." In the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada completely refutes this idea that people have that no matter who you worship, we're going to the Supreme Lord. You can worship any demigod you want, but we're all going to go back to Krishna. This verse directly says the opposite, that each demigod has their own planet, and if we worship the demigods, we'll go there and not to the Supreme Planet. So, later in Bhagavad Gita, also in chapter 9, verse 23, it says, "Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way." And I'll read the purport. "Persons who are engaged in the worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is offered to me directly," Krishna says. For example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or the directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods. So in this analogy of the watering the tree, it's such a clear example that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the root, and the demigods are the leaves and branches. And when we want to satisfy the demigods, when we want to nourish the tree, we water the root, not the leaves and branches. So in order to satisfy the demigods, we should worship the Supreme Lord, and they'll automatically be satisfied. I was thinking a bit about how this is saying that all sacrifices performed must be offered to Krishna. And I was thinking how that doesn't just mean yagyas and pujas. Sacrifice is everything. You know, every single day we're doing a big sacrifice. Does anyone know what sacrifice that is? Well, most people are. 9 to 5, we're doing a big sacrifice. Holding down a job, it's a big sacrifice. But who is it offered to? Who is the offering for? In most cases, it's offered to ourselves. We're doing a sacrifice, and then we're offering the results to ourselves and enjoying the results of that sacrifice. Sri Sri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, we work to earn money, but generally it's used for our own enjoyment. It's not offered to Krishna. And I'm thinking of a quote Kadambakanana Swami would say. I don't remember who he was quoting, but it was, "The world is an altar, and everything is meant to be purified and offered to Krishna." Do you remember who? Oh, so he's okay. I was wondering, but I just remember that the world is an altar, and everything is meant to be purified and offered to Krishna. So just like when we offer food, we cut out parts that can't be offered, like peels for fruit, and we offer the best, the purified part to Krishna. So just like that, we need to do that with our lives. I was thinking of the many ways in which we can offer ourselves to Krishna. We can offer different aspects of our lives to Krishna. in the Shastra it says we engage prana, artha, diya and vacha. So prana is our energy. We engage all our energy in serving Krishna. Artha is our possessions. So we engage our wealth or whatever we own, we can somehow use it in service to Krishna. Diya, our intelligence. We can use our intelligence by studying the scripture and deeply contemplating Krishna conscious philosophy. And that's how we offer our intelligence to Krishna. And vacha, our words. We can offer our words by glorifying Krishna, chanting the holy names, preaching Krishna's glories, especially since the book marathon is coming up. So that's a good opportunity to engage actually all of this. Our energy, a lot of energy is spent in book distribution. Our words, our intelligence to think of more greater and greater ways to distribute books. Our possessions, our cars, our book bags, everything can be used to worship Krishna. So in that way, our work, our wealth, our talents, we see so many talents being offered to Krishna. Just every single day on the altar, we see this creative genius of the pujaris with their garlands and the decorations and the dressing. Everything is so opulent, and every day it's totally different. It's a new world every day. And I remember Rukmini mentioned a few days ago that you can use the same materials to dress the deity, but the deity will look different. And I was thinking it's probably because, this is my speculation, but the deity is reciprocating with the person that's worshipping. So the deity will be in a different mood or in a different, there'll be a different feeling. So, and we see that as the deity is looking different. So there's so many ways to worship Krishna. Our relationships, we can offer our relationships to Krishna. I was thinking about this deeply. How to offer our relationships. If we see that the other person, whoever we're engaging in a relationship with, whether it's a parental relationship, friendship, marriage relationship, if we see that the other person is bringing us closer to Krishna and our duty is to bring them closer to Krishna, then we can say we're engaging this relationship, we're offering it to Krishna. But it's not simply about just doing service together. It's also about increasing the absorption of the other person and being absorbed so that we're good association for the other person. We should not drag anyone away from Krishna consciousness and think it's still offered to Krishna because we're doing service together. So I was thinking about that. Like when I look at a parent and child relationship, it's so beautiful because the parent wants to, the parent sees the child firstly as someone who is making them deeper in Krishna consciousness, because they have to learn all these transcendental qualities like patience, tolerance, forgiveness, selflessness. These are all transcendental qualities, and parents learn it just by having a child. And the parent is giving Krishna consciousness by trying to absorb the child in Krishna consciousness. You see, parents try to tell their children really enlivening stories to capture them and captivate them, otherwise they'll be distracted by something. So they're trying to increase the absorption. And even though it seems like children may not increase the absorption of parents, they help them develop very, very deep qualities which will increase their absorption. So like this, all of our different aspects of our lives can be offered to Krishna. And then I was thinking, that's how we engage different aspects. But then we need to go a step deeper and make that pure, make the offering pure, because we could be engaging all these things in Krishna's service, but half-heartedly. Each thing is engaged in Krishna's service. So what does it mean to offer something to Krishna fully? So we have the description from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabilasita sunyam jnana karmadhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably, as Krishna desires. So, this is a very elevated state to get to. Currently, we're mixed. Everything we do has some material desire behind it. We may give 50% to Krishna, but keep 50% for ourselves. Or we may give 75% and 25% for ourselves. So somehow, we're mixed right now. We're not able to offer everything to Krishna. But it's a gradual process. We're meant to increase how pure that offering is over time. We're meant to give more and more to Krishna over time. And so we're slowly meant to increase the quality and quantity of our offering. And it's not just about making bigger and bigger offerings. It's more about offering our whole selves. So whatever our capacity is, let it all be used in Krishna's service. So I always think of the story of Hanuman and the squirrel. So Hanuman was lifting huge boulders to try and build a bridge to Lanka. And the squirrel was moving tiny grains. And it may have looked like, what is the squirrel actually doing? Is it actually contributing anything to this, to the service? But Lord Ram actually appreciated both offerings equally. He said that Hanuman was engaging his full propensity in serving, but so was the squirrel. That was what the squirrel could do, and the squirrel could still make an offering. So we may not be able to make huge offerings on our own, but we can be a part of it if we're engaging our full self and all our energy. So it's about just engaging our full capacity. It's kind of like giving money. If someone has 1,000 rand and they donate 200 rand to Krishna, that's great. But if someone has 100 rand and they give 100 rand to Krishna, that's actually even greater, because it seems like this is a smaller offering because it's less money. But the second person has given everything, has surrendered fully, and the first person has surrendered partially. So we can think of it like that in terms of how much we're offering ourselves to Krishna. I was just thinking of my former days when I just joined Krishna consciousness. And there was some chanting, like I was trying to increase my chanting, but also I had my whole other lifestyle of, going out to dinner after work and just being free, having like a social life. And then over time, as the rounds increased, I realized one of those things has to go. Something has to go. They can't coexist for too long. So, and thankfully, it was the mundane socializing that went, but it just wasn't possible. I was trying to do it all, but it was not possible. So over time, these things, they leave us. And actually, it happens with higher taste. I was thinking about it and I said, if I was getting the opportunity to associate with pure devotees, so then there wouldn't be taste for socializing with, materialists in one sense. If you have higher taste, then we can easily give up lower tastes. But it takes time, and it's a very gradual process. And then there's the thought of us increasing the depth of our offering. So we could be extremely busy, engaging 24 hours of our time in service. And that's really glorious. But it could become a mechanical to-do list. Like it could feel like we're just getting things done. And so over time, as we mature, the offering can become deeper and deeper, where we engage our mind. Our mind is absorbed in Krishna, and it's absorbed with love. Although, of course, it's very difficult to get there, and I can't believe I'm even speaking about it because I'm so far from that. But I remember I asked Jay Advaita Maharaj this question once. I said that sometimes it feels like we're just doing a to-do list at the temple, and it feels a bit mechanical, like our heart is not there, like the mood isn't right. And he said not to worry about it too much, because when we're engaging in the service, to be absorbed in getting that particular service done is good. It's like Arjuna. He was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and it's not expected that he was going to be fighting absorbed in love for Krishna. He's fighting to get that task done because that's what Krishna asked him to do. But because he's following the instruction of Krishna, then it's pure. It's a pure activity. So he didn't put such an emphasis on, being worried about the mood and being constantly absorbed. But he did say that as time goes, our absorption will increase. Our absorption should increase. It becomes an offering of love over time. May start off as an offering of duty, but then over time it can develop into love. Yes, it could. It's not just about getting the service done. It's about doing it to please Krishna. So, reflecting on this pastime of the previous ages and how offerings were so complicated in the previous age, all the previous ages, to serve Krishna, the processes look impossible. You have to either meditate for thousands of years or have elaborate fire sacrifices where all the mantras are chanted perfectly and all the ingredients are pure and all the offerings are done in the right way, or elaborate deity worship. But in this age, we have the easiest process. It's just chanting the holy name. Thanks to Lord Chaitanya, we've been given the greatest blessing by being able to access the spiritual world so easily. And yet we find it difficult because we're thinking we need to chant attentively, and that's difficult. But it's much easier, I think, than all the previous ages and the offerings that had to be done then. So we just have to chant Hare Krishna and teach others. That's our two jobs in the Krishna consciousness movement, as said by Vaisheshika Prabhu. It's a special concession we've been given, that we can access the spiritual world in a very simple way. So we should be grateful for that opportunity and really, really give ourselves in these offerings that we do, which is far simpler than previous ages. I was just thinking, one way to really, really please Krishna is to distribute books, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that there is nobody more dear to him than he who shares this knowledge. And since the book marathon's coming up, it's so exciting to have this meditation that by distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, we can offer ourselves completely in this sacrifice, this big yagya. I love how Vaisheshika Prabhu makes everything so exciting. He talks about book distribution in such an exciting way, and it really gets people fired up, because he describes it as this huge worldwide yagya. It's a big sacrifice. This is our sacrifice. We don't have Asvamedha sacrifices and things now. We don't know how to do that. But this is our sacrifice, book distribution. And I was reflecting last year, or maybe, it was last year. I went to one of these upper class markets in Amshlanga, and I had a book table. And it was quiet. It was a relatively quiet day compared to what the other days were at that same market. I heard from the other vendors. But for me, it was very ecstatic because there were all these people who never heard of Srila Prabhupada's books getting in touch with it. It may be like 20 people, which for a book distributor is a happy day. But for other vendors who are used to, really cashing in. They were saying it's a quiet day, but I was enlivened, and I was thinking that day I didn't eat for 6 hours. I was standing, I didn't sit down, I didn't drink anything. And I was thinking of Dhruva Maharaj, who spent months and months standing on one leg, not eating, not drinking, to perform a sacrifice to see the Lord. And I was thinking my sacrifice was so easy. It was just a short period of time, but it pleases Krishna. And I think I heard this quoted that Srila Prabhupada said that you can get the same benefit of doing thousands and thousands of years of, I think it's meditation, by just going out on Sankirtan for 2 days. So it's the same benefit is there. So it's very inspiring. I thought, wow, I'm getting this benefit just by making a small sacrifice, because really it is, compared to what we gain, it is a small sacrifice, because we gain the spiritual world from sharing Srila Prabhupada's books. And I really like Vaisheshika Prabhu's recipe for successful book distribution. So he has 4 items which he says are like integral. His 4 steps. The first step is your sadhana must be strong. So he mentions that we can't pour from an empty cup. So we need to fill ourselves first. And strong sadhana will overflow bhakti. If our sadhana is very strong, the nectar of Krishna consciousness will just overflow from us, and then we'll be able to distribute that overflow. If we're not filling ourselves up, then it is harder to give out. We're not in a position to give out so much. And then the second item was get books. He says we should always carry books with us at all times. And it's true, because I've had this experience. If you have a book on you, Krishna will arrange that somebody receives that book. It will be distributed. It's not that if you have the book, it's just going to sit with you for really long. Like somehow it will be distributed. But if you don't have books on you, then nothing will be distributed. It's not possible. Okay. So always carry books. I had an experience a few times where I had books, but not all the books. Didn't have Bhagavad Gita and like heavier books. I just carried small books, and people actually requested for Bhagavad Gita. 2 days in a row this happened to me. I didn't learn my lesson after the first day to always carry Bhagavad Gita. So it happened the next day, and then I thought I must always have Bhagavad Gita on me, and actually a variety of books, because we don't know who we're going to meet. And the third step, Vaisheshika Prabhu said, is the more you show, the more you sell. The more you show, the more you sell. So he says that we shouldn't be afraid to show all the books. Don't just show the small ones because we think that's easiest to distribute because it's cheaper. Show the whole variety. Just sell them in bunches like bananas, he says. Because when people see a whole variety, they might want a whole stack of books. So always display everything. I know for the last few years, Rukmini always has such a beautiful book display in the malls and wherever we go, basically. The display is really fantastic. Once I had, with the same like setup that I borrowed from Rukmini, I posted a photo on Facebook, and Tattvavid Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada's disciple, said that the display looks like Lord Narayan. And actually it did, because it had it was like in a shape, but actually I had some prices and they were in like strategic positions that looked like Lord Narayan's 4 hands. So it was true. I agreed with him. But I thought that was a powerful statement, because during that same time period also, I was a bit discouraged because we were at a new mall that we hadn't been to before. So people, like the first few days, people would just walk past the whole day, 0 books, you know. And I was feeling so sad because I thought, I came here for like 8 hours and it's just nothing. And then a friend mentioned that just by seeing the books, they're gaining Agyata Sukriti. And then she said that they don't have enough credit in their spiritual bank balance to afford the book right now. But by walking past every day, they're gaining spiritual credit in Agyata Sukriti, and then they'll one day be able to afford the books. And that was really encouraging. I really liked the metaphor. But I also experienced that at another time when we were at a market, and we were going 2 days in a row for that market. So I went the first day and it was packed. So many people. It was a night market. It was a really vibey situation, but barely any books got distributed. Then the next day there was a storm coming. Rain was predicted. So the market was empty. Hardly anybody came. And so all the other vendors were kind of sad. But that day, more books were distributed because the vendors from the previous night who had seen the books the previous day actually came to buy. So a lot of the vendors bought, and just the few people that came, but they had seen it, and they came on both days, and they had seen it. And I thought that is true. It's like something sparked their interest just by seeing the book, and then the next day it came. So we shouldn't be discouraged when people don't buy books. Actually, Vaisheshika Prabhu quotes Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who says that whenever we get rejected on the street distributing books, that nourishes our spiritual blood for our spiritual body. It's called Chida Rakta. So then that changed my view on rejection completely, right? Because before we get rejected and we get so deflated, and we have to try to keep our enthusiasm up and try to keep going for the rest of the day. But actually, now when I get rejected, it's actually exciting because I know, oh, yes, more spiritual blood for my spiritual body. So just the endeavor is so purifying, even if no books are distributed. I know there's a place that Srila Prabhupada said, just by thinking of devotional service, it equals liberation. So what to speak of if we're actually doing? So even with book distribution, if you just think of it and make plans for it, but somehow it doesn't happen, it's already liberation because we're trying, Krishna sees that endeavor, that we're trying to do it. I felt like that recently because I haven't been distributing books for recently, but I'm always thinking about it somehow, and I'm thinking, okay, let the opportune moment come when I can get back into it and distribute more and more books. I did this challenge a few years ago of distributing books 108 days in a row. I took a vow and to do at least one book every day for 108 days. And after that, I thought, why did I stop? Like I lost momentum by stopping that because that was so enlivening. And it was a way to feel Krishna's presence every day. I felt like that connection with Krishna, that every day I was going out trying something that seemed impossible because so many days we go on book distribution and nothing gets distributed. But every day going out and trying, and Krishna was communicating through all these different people that were coming. I felt like he was reciprocating. And then when I ended that, I just feel foolish now for having not continued, because I think that if we try to do it every single day, Krishna will arrange. Somehow, he will arrange that something happens. And another thing I noticed from that experience was that in that 108 days, I met people who were at different points in their spiritual journey. So some people were like, what's that about? Okay, it's 20 Rand. Okay, I'll take it. So just slightly interested. Some people were more interested. Oh yes, what's this about? Okay, cool. And bought the books. Some people had already received books from somewhere, some other person. And then they see the books and they say, oh, I have this one, I have that one, can I get this one? And then they want to, where are you guys? What is this? And then they want to come to the temple. So they start coming to the temple. So every day we're meeting people at different points in their journey. And that's all we're actually meant to do. We're meant to just take them that one step further. It might not be that, okay, we meet someone on the street and then we cultivate them and then they become a fully fledged devotee and they do everything. That may not happen realistically. It's not that every time we distribute a book, that person's going to immediately become a devotee and start practicing Krishna consciousness. But if we can just take them one step further from where they previously were. So if they saw a book and rejected it, that's already a step further from not seeing the book, right? Then if they accepted a book from after having previously rejected it, that's a step further. And then if they actually read the book, if they inquire and want to keep in contact, if they want to come to temple, these are all steps that they're taking. And we can just help them and assist them on that journey. But it's also that it's not going to be one person that takes them from start to finish of their spiritual life. Lord Chaitanya will send different agents at different times for these people in their situation, for what they can handle. So in that way, we can be detached and not be controlling and think like, this is my endeavor, because it's really not. It's Krishna. And then the last point on Vaisheshika Prabhu's list is, you must organize. So this one is something we may not do all the time very well. I mean, we try. But I know I like to keep everything organized, but I also know that the Sankirtan devotees are ecstatic. And when they're out there on the street and books are just flying out of their hands and, it's so ecstatic, nobody's keeping count. So, but I encourage everyone, please organize, because it's easier to just keep track of everything. Just count the books beforehand, count them afterwards, see how much Lakshmi is due, see how much Lakshmi we get. It's all important, actually. Vaisheshika Prabhu says that with organization, it's like sharpening the sword. If you try to cut a tree with a blunt saw, whatever, it's going to take very long. But if you just spend 5 minutes sharpening it, you can do it very quickly. So that's what organization does for us. It can make our tallying of books and keeping track of everything easier if we just organize. We just take a little bit extra time at the beginning to organize. Or it can be chaotic and take much longer if we're not organized. So that's just some good tips from Vaisheshika Prabhu, who is extremely organized. He is amazing. He runs a worldwide campaign every year for everything. Bhadra Purnima, Gaur Purnima with the CC marathon, and then the Live to Give campaign. So it's book distribution all throughout the year, and it's worldwide, and they keep track of the scores, and they keep track of everything perfectly. So it really pays to be organized. And also, another really important point that Vaisheshika Prabhu mentions is to go out and just touch the pavement. If someone has not gone on books before and they're afraid, because it is nerve-wracking to talk to strangers, just don't have the idea you're going on books. Just go out and touch the pavement, and then your goal is complete. So there's no pressure. If you somehow distribute some books, if someone sees a book in your hand and asks about it and takes the book, that's extra. That's more than what we expect. So that's a very encouraging statement, because book distribution is actually for everyone. It's the heartbeat of the movement. It's our family business. Vaisheshika Prabhu has the book, extremely inspiring book, one of my favorites, called Our Family Business. And it made me feel like, when I was reading it, it made me feel like he was speaking to this ISKCON family that we have, and say that this is our family business. Not in like the corporate sense of business and what you think of business, but this is like our natural occupation. It's something that naturally happens. Like when when like a boy and girl talk to each other, they'll naturally become attracted to each other. So our natural thing is we share Krishna consciousness. We distribute books. Of course, there's many ways to share Krishna consciousness that isn't directly distributing books. But book distribution is such an enlivening experience that everybody should do it at least once. So I hope I've encouraged you and myself to go out on books. I think I needed this more for me to encourage myself and remember how enlivening it is to be on book distribution, because the marathon gets intense at times. But it is really special to see how Srila Prabhupada makes these arrangements to connect with so many conditioned souls just in our daily lives. We don't have to go out for 10 hours every day if we can't. If we can, that'll be great. I wish I could. But we can just, in the ordinary activities, somehow get the message out there. When I was doing my 108-day challenge, I was working, I was doing normal things every day. I spent a very small period of the day distributing books, maybe half an hour. But because I took that, I made that mental decision that I'm going to try to do this, then Krishna made the arrangements. So whatever we're doing, we can turn it into a field of opportunity for book distribution. Like if we're at work, we can turn that into a place where we distribute books, to our colleagues, share something about the books with them, just with our friends, with our family. If they're not practicing Krishna consciousness, they might be interested to know what we're doing, what we spend so much of our time doing. So there's newer and newer ways to distribute books online. Just these days, posting a photo of a book online goes a long way. People are so interested in just seeing a book online that they immediately want to know, what is this book? How can I get it? So even just from relaxing, scrolling on our smartphone, we can distribute some books. So I think I'll end there and see if there's any comments or questions or any Sankirtan stories anybody wants to share. Charu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for such a wonderful class. No Sankirtan stories. I've always had a fear of being rejected. It's just I don't know, and I'm hoping,
I can't hear properly, just like...
Oh no, sorry. I'm hoping, someone can actually validate what I actually kind of like picked up in the past few days. So I've been struggling with understanding the endeavor one does, and also somehow expecting results in, whatever field you find yourself in. It could be book distribution, your work, like that. And then I had a class by Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, and he said that your endeavor is your success, is really that the results are not really up to you. So Radhika Sundari Mataji actually also confirmed that yesterday. So now thinking of what you're saying now about book distribution, how daunting it can be, and for me it's always been, I can't handle rejection, like I really can't. But just thinking about that when you place yourself in a position where you're distributing books, thinking that whether this person takes the book or not, that act on its own, according to Krishna, is enough. He will, take care of the rest. So if the person takes the book, it's Krishna's mercy. And if he doesn't, you shouldn't be disheartened, I guess. So I'm hoping, do I have the right idea? Rukmini, Ranga,
yeah.
Suravi, anybody else?
Yeah, that's also what I heard, because I used to also be very discouraged when no people wouldn't take books. But more than that, it was about, going out all day and just coming back with nothing to say. No scores, nothing positive, and nothing to offer, basically, to Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. But then I had a conversation with someone who said that, this is what Arjuna had to do. He had to fight and be detached from the results. That was his duty. Krishna said, your duty is to fight. I'll take care of the rest. So this is our fight. The battlefield is the world. We are trying to fight Maya by using the weapon of Prabhupada's books, weapons of mass instruction. So, and that's our fighting weapon. If we win or we lose, it's actually always a win. And I think I watched the same lecture by Keshav Maharaj that you're talking about, because I also, just like a few days ago, same topic about success and failure and about the results. And somebody did ask him that, how do we know that we've given it our all? Because sometimes we could just fail because we're not giving it our best effort. Like if I go out and I see a bunch of people looking at the books, but I just don't talk to them, or if I just don't, I'm just like disengaged, like I'm not interested in you, then I'm not giving my best effort. Because as a book distributor, they're looking, they're engaged, I should, at least show up, show them the book, and then what happens naturally. I may be an introvert or an extrovert, but somehow I must be like favorably disposed to them, and then I can say that's my best effort. I can't go out, be disengaged or rude to people, and then come back and say, well, I went out, I gave it my best effort. So yeah, and he did say that if we know we have done our best, then that's enough. It's really about us giving it our all from ourselves. And someone asked about humility. Like out of humility, we always think we could have done better. So this was a pujari, and she said, I always think I could have dressed Krishna better. Or, I could have done something else to dress him like more beautifully. And he said that's there, but if you've honestly done the best that you can, that effort is enough. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Haribo. Just a couple of thoughts when I was hearing Charu about this whole rejection thing. It's such a hard thing, but also, although we have the philosophy, it's not easy to intellectualize it. It's like, okay, they rejected me, so this is my spiritual blood. But it'll help me, but at the same time, it still stings. And I was thinking that when I was, I mean, it's been a long time since I could be on books, but when that happened, one of the things that helped me process it was like, yeah, it stings, and this is the rejection of me leaving Krishna.
Yeah.
That's one thing, is that so many times my japa is under par. So many times I'm ignoring him. So many times I'm rejecting him. This is the same sting of that rejection, The other thing was that what I was fighting against was that rejection, it just keeps me humble. It really just keeps you humble. So on one hand, we can try to, sometimes if we could use the philosophy to try to not feel the rejection. On the other hand, we could feel the rejection, and that rejection could purify us. Because then it's like, sometimes in Krishna consciousness, it's like the longer you've been around, you get naturally senior. And then there's all this expected respect that you expect, that's meant to come to you. And then sometimes it helps to just step on the street and get smashed, and realize that actually, no, it just exists in this bubble of a certain social structure that you are in. That's why I've felt that sometimes you can feel the presence of Krishna more, and this is, I'm saying it as my opinion, you can feel the presence of Krishna more sometimes in 10 minutes of book distribution than dressing the deities on the altar, because you can dress Krishna on the altar and he'll accept whatever you put. Sometimes he may give you a slap, inverted commas, but he may accept whatever you put. But when you're on the street and you have to pray to Krishna in the heart, give me the words now, because I don't have them. then you have to see Krishna manifest, move, and act. So it's we risk the rejection. In order to experience Krishna in the book distribution, we have to risk the rejection. So that's what I was thinking about. And then something that you were mentioning earlier is that offering out relationships. I was thinking that one way it's not necessarily that we'll have deep offering relationships with everybody, but one way that we can offer our relationships is just by being encouraging. Because like we can serve, if we're serving together, that's offering the relationship you mentioned. Also, if we're absorbed together, that's like we would most likely have to be a little bit more like-minded to be absorbed together.
Yeah, those are the closer relationships.
The closer relationships. But I think on a general basis, it really doesn't hurt to just be encouraging. And that in itself is a sacrifice, because it inspires the other person's Krishna consciousness. It is a legitimate sacrifice to Krishna, making that relationship a sacrifice.
That's actually a really good point. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it actually applies to a certain area of my life. So that is so true about encouraging and offering that, because I was always thinking of offering your relationships. I'm thinking of the closest ones, because even those somehow can get tainted by material. Just the ego gets in the way, and material expectations of another person, even though we're all devotees. But even just anyone, to offer that encouragement. And sometimes it is a sacrifice, because it may not come naturally to just be encouraging, but to keep encouraging. I mean, that's why certain people are distant from you, because they're not in your close circle, and there's reasons for that. But then to continue to encourage despite anything, that's very advanced level. I really liked the points about rejection also, because it does keep us humble. I think when we're out on the street, like there has to be that balance where we feel the right amount of rejection to keep us humble, but the right amount of encouragement of like our spiritual blood growing to continue. Because if you go out, we're always humble and always, being humbled, and it's good for us. And then to a point where it says, okay, I'm not going out anymore because this is too much. So it's like we need that. And I think Krishna arranges for that. He arranges for that smashing, and then he'll arrange for some nectar. And then, it'll be exactly what we need, actually. Even if it's very, very difficult, it's exactly what we need. It shouldn't, whatever like discouragement we experience and that we accept with humility, it shouldn't like deter us from the service. That's the main thing. If it's getting to that point, then it's like, okay, we need some freebies. Sometimes whenever we, before, when we were on books, if we'd go through a really, really difficult day and there's no books being distributed, then somehow we'll just find someone who's like mildly interested and just give them the book for free. Just say like, we did something for our own encouragement. We used to do this. And I mean, I don't want to continue doing that because the books are so valuable. But that was the beginning. Like sometimes you just get out there, you just want to like say I did something and I gave Krishna consciousness, even if you gave the book for free and you paid for it just to. I know Vibhu Prabhu said that that's how he started also.
Hare Krishna. I don't have much to say, but for Charu, you just concentrate on the positive. Rejection is there, but whoever don't take the book, at least they got to see the book or touch the book, so they'll also make spiritual advancement. But concentrate on the positivity that somebody took a book, you actually gave Krishna to somebody, and just by them reading the book, they will actually become Krishna conscious, and may become devotees or will become devotees in time. So just concentrate on the positive. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to make this one last point before we end that I forgot to say. When I described that altar, of the books, and looking like Lord Narayan, and how people were seeing that, they were actually taking darshan. So like you mentioned, that when they touch the book, when they see the book, they're actually taking darshan of Krishna in some way, even if Krishna is not on the cover of the book, because they're associating with Prabhupada's books. So it is a darshan, and like with people coming to take darshan of the deity, some may understand what's going on, some may not. Some may see the deity as just a statue, and everyone, but over time, these things change. So it is that was an altar of Lord Vishnu. I consider the book table my altar. That's like Rukmini considers the stage her altar, because it really is. And so, yeah, we can all offer something on our altars. Hare Krishna. Rantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.